Hi everybody, it's Nick from Lawless Films. I'm back to rank the 2025 Best Picture nominees. There have been a lot of great movies this year. I'm really excited to get into the ranking. There are some movies that I think are better than others, but before I get into the ranking, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date on all new upcoming content. Before I get into the actual ranking of the Best Picture nominees, I need to start by going over the different tiers that I've set up this year. Each year I set up different tiers on my ranking in terms of what movies I think are better than others. Let me go ahead and show you the different tiers this year. So here are my different tiers for my ranking. So the bottom tier, I have the undeserving tier. This is the tier for the films that I think are not worthy or do not merit a Best Picture nomination. I think these films don't deserve the nomination. I think there are much better films that we could nominate instead of these films. Clearly, these are the films that I didn't respond to or have a positive opinion of, but that's also my humble opinion. I'm sure there's probably other people out there who think these films in this tier are their favorite films. And if that's the case, then that's okay. But for me, these films in this tier didn't really speak to me. The next tier is the good nomination tier. Now, this is the tier for films I think I'm fine with them being nominated in the category, but they're not my personal favorite films of the year. The next tier on the list is the almost worthy tier. Now, these are the films that I really liked. However, I don't think they merit the Best Picture win. The next tier on the list is the Best Picture worthy tier. Now, these are the films that I think are worthy of the Best Picture Oscar. They're my favorite films of the year. I'm happy they're nominated. They're a film that I really liked, and I also hope they win Best Picture. Okay, so I'm about to get into the different rankings. So starting on the bottom, the 10th film on the Best Picture ranking and the first film on the undeserving tier is Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez tried too hard at being a film that we've never seen before. That ambition works out sometimes, but if you force originality by throwing story elements together that clash thematically, then it can severely backfire, which is what I feel happened with Emilia Perez. If this type of subject matter is to be made into a musical, it needs to be more subtle. Emilia Perez has hyper-stylized sequences that pop in and out in an odd fashion. The style of the filmmaking creates a messy, uneven tone throughout the film. It's hard to buy into the premise that the screenplay sets up. Some of the dialogue and lyrics are questionable. Some of the performances are fine, but a portion of the acting in the film is not very good. I think Emilia Perez is a poorly written, over-stylized musical with an internationally high-profile director to help boost its Oscar chances. The 9th film on the Best Picture ranking is A Complete Unknown. One thing I liked about A Complete Unknown are the scenes between Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash. I really liked the chemistry between the actors in those scenes. That being said, this film is easily one of the most uninspiring films of the year. A Complete Unknown follows the typical tropes of a biopic centered around a famous musician. Timothée Chalamet puts on a decent enough performance as Bob Dylan, but for me personally, out of the Best Actor nominees, he's probably 5th for me in terms of which performance I thought was the most inspiring or captivating. The entire film is basically Timothée Chalamet singing Bob Dylan covers over and over again. If you're a huge Bob Dylan fan, this might not bother you, but it does wear out its novelty when the rest of the film whizzes by a typical plot of a singer getting discovered, disconnecting from their roots, eventually alienating themselves from the people around them by behaving poorly, a refusal to conform to the standards of the music industry that conflict with their own personal values. The list goes on. Lastly, I thought Monica Barbaro was stunningly gorgeous in the film. I was disappointed with how underdeveloped the love triangle was between Joan, Sylvie, and Bob. Edward Norton's performance as Pete Seeger is fine, but there are definitely more deserving supporting actor choices in my humble opinion. A Complete Unknown felt like it was trying to be a film that we've already seen 1,000 times. We now move into the good nomination tier. What separates this tier from the undeserving tier? While these films aren't my favorite, I'm fine with them being nominated in the Best Picture category. The 8th film in my Best Picture ranking and the first film on the good nomination tier is Nickel Boys. Ramon Ross's film about two young black men, Elwood and Turner, becoming friends in a Florida reform school definitely stood out amongst the films last year. Maybe because of the film's cinematography, as nearly the entire movie is shot as a first-person POV between the two nickel boys. Anjanou Ellis-Taylor delivers a memorable performance as Elwood's mother. The movie tackles themes of race, friendship, and positive outlooks or perspectives. The ending was pretty interesting, and I definitely recommend you check out this movie. I did feel like the cinematography after a while wore out its novelty and it got a little disorienting. I thought the concept of the story was somewhat basic and something audiences have seen many times before. But Nickel Boys is a unique film nonetheless and definitely worth a watch. The seventh film on my Best Picture ranking is The Substance. The Substance blew up recently and has a strong support amongst casual movie-going fans. What is really great about the film is the production design and sound design of the film. The script has a very unique idea and the themes feel very universal and relatable. Demi Moore gives a fantastic performance. What I didn't like was Dennis Quaid's performance. I thought he was very over the top. Every other character felt very one-dimensional, and I'm not a huge fan of that in films because I think we don't need to make everyone else very stupid or rude just to make our main character or protagonist more likable than they really should be. The themes of the film are kind of very overstated. I like the symmetry between the first shot and the last shot of the film. I thought that was a nice idea, but getting to that point, I felt like the ending of the film was a very strong, powerful ending, but it was a little out of left field and it didn't quite land thematically for me all the way. But I appreciated the swing that The Substance does, because it is a swing, and I'm definitely happy the film is nominated. I'm definitely happy the film has a strong following. I thought the direction from Corley Forja was fantastic, but I did think the screenplay, in terms of how they approach some of the characters in the film, how they approach the themes of the film, is a little overstated and needs to be a little more subtle. The film's very creative though. The production design and the colors. I really like the production design of the apartment, especially that window that you see sprawled out on screen. That was a very nice touch. The colors and the costumes also and the makeup are very interesting in The Substance. You know, the production design and the symmetry in the shots was very interesting. A lot of the filmmaking aspects of The Substance I really admire. I just have some qualms with the screenplay that knocks down The Substance for me significantly. The ending of The Substance felt overly thematic and not as subtle as the rest of the film. The sixth film on my 2025 Best Picture ranking is Wicked. Wicked was one of the most pleasant surprises in cinema this last year. The film was an unexpected alternate take on the characters from The Wizard of Oz, and it's able to work by paying homage and capturing the magic of the original film. The sets and choreography were captivating, the drama felt present, and the pacing of the film was superb. Cynthia Erivo is a spectacular vocalist and delivers a performance that garners sympathy. Ariana Grande is so beautiful in the film and delivers one of my favorite performances of the year. Other memorable performances from the film include actors like Michelle Yeoh, Jonathan Bailey, Jeff Goldblum, and Peter Dinklage. The film was impressively directed by John M. Chu, who was able to create such a grand scale, but be able to keep the story so tight and the themes so clearly defined. One thing I wasn't a huge fan of for the film was the color grading and the lighting, as I felt like some scenes were very washed out with light. I also think Wicked is a great musical, but it doesn't expand the film form beyond what other musicals have done in the past. We're now moving on to the almost worthy tier. These are the Best Picture nominees that I'm glad they're nominated in the category. I really like these films. That being said, I still think that there is a clutch of nominees that is one tier higher where I hope they win the Best Picture Oscar. If any of these films won Best Picture, I wouldn't be too upset, but I'd still think that there was a group of films that are more deserving of the Oscar. The fifth film on my Best Picture ranking is I'm Still Here. This was the most surprising Best Picture nominee, and it only took me after it was nominated to realize the film has a passionate fan base, and after watching I'm Still Here myself, I can see why. The film is based on the true story of a mother in Brazil who is beside herself as the military barges into their home and takes her husband away and arbitrarily kills him. The mother, played by the talented Fernanda Torres, has to grapple with her new reality without her husband, needs to be the bellwether for her family, and actively seeks justice, demanding that the Brazilian authorities confess to the unlawful murder of her husband. This film is powerful and emotionally charged. There were moments where the footage is meant to resemble an old found footage look with film grain, which was a nice aesthetic touch. Fernanda Torres gives a masterful performance. The Brazilian culture is something that I'm not particularly familiar with, but was definitely present on screen. I also loved the dog in the film. He was just really adorable, and I love animals. This film is very good. The reason I don't have this film higher than the other nominees is because I liked the writing and the dramatic stories that take place in the other films just slightly more. But I really think I'm Still Here is a deserving Best Picture nominee. I know the film has a lot of fans, so just because I have it at 5 doesn't mean that it's not valid to have this film as your favorite film. I think it's totally valid to have this film, I'm Still Here, as your favorite film. It's not my personal favorite, but it's a film I think is great, and I definitely recommend you check out I'm Still Here. The fourth film on my Best Picture ranking is Conclave. What I liked about Conclave was the suspense drawn from the juicy situational drama. I also loved Ralph Fiennes in the film, especially in the well-directed opening scene. The production design was well thought out, and the geometric symmetry you can see in all the shots is very impressive. The script is very gripping with fleshed out characters. The supporting players in Stanley Tucci, Jonathan Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini deliver fitting performances, but there feels a general, probably intentional, slowness to the film. The decision that they make at the end was too simple of a solution. Also, the twist at the end didn't completely work for me. It kind of felt thrown in at the last second. Those are my thoughts on Conclave. I definitely hope it picks up a couple Oscars, probably in screenplay, because I definitely think it's worthy of such. We've now moved on to the Best Picture worthy tier. These are the 3 films that I think are worthy of the Best Picture prize. If any of these films won Best Picture, I'd be very happy. The third film on my Best Picture ranking is The Brutalist. The Brutalist is about a Jewish-Hungarian architect, Laszlo Toth, who fled Europe and the Holocaust to find a new life in America. But things don't start as good as he initially hoped, until his path stumbles upon a rich benefactor, Harrison Lee Van Buren, who has a keen interest in Laszlo's talents. Van Buren hires Laszlo to design a new estate and church Van Buren wants to build on his property. Laszlo agrees, but has disagreements with Van Buren's employees. On top of that, eventually Laszlo's wife enters the film, and her headstrong nature also complicates things. I thought The Brutalist was very epic. I thought the score was grandiose. The performances by Adrien Brody, Guy Pearce, and Felicity Jones were fantastic, and all deserving of their Oscar nominations. The film is long, separating the film into 2 halves with an intermission in between. I know some people prefer the first half of the film, but I think each half has something going for it. There's also a twist near the very end of the film that personally left me baffled, and it almost made me think, if this character hadn't had done that, how would we have ended this film? Other than this twist near the end, there hasn't been that much conflict. I also felt like the epilogue in the film was a little too safe for such an epic and different film. I also have to say I love the title sequences in the film, like the opening credits and the end credits, how the opening credits move sideways and how the end credits are kind of slanted across the screen. I've never seen credits like that before, and that was very interesting. My second favorite 2025 Best Picture nominee is Anora. This film is about a sex worker named Annie who forms a relationship with a young rich Russian guy, Ivan. She quits her job after he proposes to her and promises to support her financially. This is a dream come true for Annie, but when Ivan's rich parents get word of the marriage, they have their employees track Ivan and Annie down so that they can annul the marriage. In the process, one of the employees, Igor, sympathizes with Annie's predicament. Sean Baker delivers a rich blend of comedy and drama in a subject that he has experience with. The cinematography and production design are a couple of the most underrated but fantastic elements to the film. My personal favorite thing about Anora is the performance by Mikey Madison, who delivers my personal favorite performance of the year. I know a lot of people are loving Demi Moore's performance in The Substance. I think Demi Moore is fantastic in The Substance. I think Mikey Madison in Anora delivers the best performance of the year. Mikey Madison really embodies the character. You feel like she's Anora. You're totally bought into the performance and you totally sympathize with her throughout the film. She's fantastic. The writing, directing, acting, cinematography, and production design in Anora were all top notch. So, why isn't Anora number one? Well, there was one film this year that fired off on all cylinders. My favorite Best Picture nominee in 2025 and my favorite film in 2025 is Dune Part 2. Even though this movie came out all the way back in March due to the strikes in Hollywood, this film felt like the movie of the year that everyone had been waiting for. It's a continuation of Dune Part 1. Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, remains on the planet Dune after his people had been attacked. Paul and his mother gain the trust of the Freemen. Paul develops a romantic relationship with Zendaya's character, all while the Harkonnen, particularly Feyd-Rautha, plot the destruction of the Freemen and the conquering of Dune. This movie is epic, romantic, funny, heartwarming, emotionally charged, and grandiose. Dune Part 2 has everything you can want in a Best Picture film. I had my issues with Dune Part 1. In many ways, I think Dune Part 1 was a preamble to Part 2, but what makes Dune Part 1 a subpar film is what I think makes Dune Part 2 one of the best sci-fi action films I've ever seen. Dune Part 1 provides the context of the world of Dune, and in Dune Part 2, we finally get to see the story and go through Paul's anti-hero journey. Denis Villeneuve is one of my personal favorite directors that's working today, and I was devastated that he was completely overlooked for a Best Director Oscar. I felt like he was the one who should be winning that award, not the one that gets snubbed from the category for a second time because he got snubbed for Dune Part 1 when everyone thought he would be in it. Now this year, he directs Dune Part 2, a superior version to Dune Part 1, and is overlooked yet again. It's just tragic because Denis Villeneuve is just a fantastic director and completely deserving of a Best Director Oscar nomination. His talent for in-camera techniques and his ability to create a dramatically potent scene with perfect pacing is unmatched. The cinematography in the black and white Feyd-Rautha fight was incredible. My favorite shot of any film this year was the beginning of Dune Part 2 where the Harkonnen float onto the rock. Right then and there, you knew Dune Part 2 was going to have fantastic camera work and great direction. The best part about Dune Part 2 was the score. A time of quiet between two storms is a perfect blend of epic heart. Some things I wish Denis Villeneuve did a little differently in Dune Part 2 is that I wish some of the side characters from the first film were included in Dune Part 2. Some side characters in Dune Part 1 pretty much get dropped in Dune Part 2 and not picked back up again. So we don't really know what happened to them or what their fate was. And I kind of wish we got that closure just for some of the characters. But I understand that those characters are not nearly as important as Paul or some of the other characters. I also think that it would have been nice to include Tim Blake Nelson's scene in the film because I heard he did a very interesting character and a very good job. I understand that Denis Villeneuve wants to cut things that aren't essential for the main story, so I understand, but it would have been nice to include those scenes. I just want to see those scenes just so I know whether or not it was a good idea to cut them. Timothée Chalamet is fantastic in Dune Part 2. I would have preferred Timothée Chalamet be nominated for Dune Part 2 over A Complete Unknown. Zendaya is an incredible actress and does a fantastic job in the film. Florence Pugh is also stunningly gorgeous. Both actresses, Zendaya and Florence Pugh, are incredibly gorgeous. They're so beautiful, they're so captivating, and they're so talented. They take my breath away. I love those two actresses. They hold a special place in my heart, and they definitely deliver in Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 was highly overlooked this year at the Oscars, especially directing. Dune Part 2 came out in March, so it's not really on a lot of people's minds in terms of Oscars, so that's a part of the reason why Dune Part 2 will probably not do as good as Dune Part 1 at the Oscars, even though it's a better film. And it's a shame that such a deserving Best Picture winner has no shot at the Oscars. But how would you rank the Best Picture nominees? Comment your ranking down below in the comment section, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date on all new upcoming content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.